Hi, everyone. Can everyone hear me? Okay. Okay. Um, yes. Welcome to Welcome Japan Symposium 2023. I am the moderator of Part 2 Initiatives for Refugee Inclusion from Asia to the World. I'm Jinte Kim, the representative director of Welcome Japan. Welcome. And then, yes, this time, Global Refugee Forum 2023, Japan is one of the co-conveyor country. And then, so we would like to go beyond Japan, beyond Asia for refugee inclusion. And Najiba, the founder of APNO and Global Refugee Network, is about to join soon. So let's wait a moment, please. Yes, for about 3 minutes, I assume. Yes. 3分ほどお待ちください。So Najiba is about to jump in to Zoom. In Geneva, there's just so many events going on right now across the city, and then everyone is joining from anywhere. Welcome from anywhere. And then, yes, she's about to join, Najiba. So she's almost here. And while waiting, let me just give you an overview of the second part, initiatives for refugee inclusion from Asia to the world. So we will be having the opening remarks by Najiba, the founder of APNO and Global Refugee Network. And after that, we will be sharing pledges by Japanese stakeholders. And then you'll see later, but we got about over 40 pledges from Japan this time. And that's really many wishes for refugee inclusion. So we're going to get overview on that by Satomi, Secretariat Forum for Refugee Japan, and also Ryutaro, Head of Office for Peace Building, JICA. And next, sharing pledges and good practices from East Asia. So we have East Asian working group in April, and then we are having guests from South Korea, Hong Kong and Taiwan. So we will be hearing pledges and good practices from East Asia beyond GRF. And we'll get expectations for East Asia by Katja, Policy Officer of UNHCR Regional Bureau for SI in the Pacific, and Celia Fitch, Asia Pacific Regional Manager, International Detention Coalition, and Khadija Begum, Rohingya Refugee Consultant, and Anas and Susan, members of Japan Bridge and Embassy from Japan in Geneva. And now she's ready. Okay. So Najiba, can you hear us?
Hi, Jinte. Can you see me and hear me well?
Super clear. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Jinte. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. My name is Najiba. I'm here with my colleague, Adama Kamara from the Asia Pacific Network of Refugees. We are actually connecting with you from Geneva, Switzerland, where the actual Global Refugee Forum has given not necessarily a formal start, but it has started. The actual formal commencement will be tomorrow morning, but we're already here. We have started our advocacy, in particular around meaningful refugee participation. Maybe I'll allow my colleague to introduce herself a little bit, and then I can continue.
Hi, everyone. My name is Adama. I work at the Refugee Council of Australia, and I'm also a co-chair of the Refugee Leadership Alliance. And we have a session tomorrow in the morning talking about the funding program that we've been working on, trying to get access to funds, resources, and networks for refugee leaders across Asia Pacific.
Thank you very much, Jinte, for actually giving us the opportunity to do the opening remark to this important conversation and dialogue that's happening in Tokyo, in Japan, around, how do we bring further engagement and visibility on the work that refugee-led organizations are doing around the world, but particularly in the Asia region. Of course, as I can see people, familiar faces on this virtual hub, refugee experts who have been doing an extraordinary work around refugee participation at national level in Japan, but also, around the globe. So we are here, as I mentioned, to attend the Global Refugee Forum. Obviously, we do see this as an opportunity to bring much more concrete action when it comes to the conversation on meaningful refugee participation. As many of you know, it has been 4 years since 2019 Global Refugee Forum. So this is the second time that we've had the privilege and opportunity to actually be in Geneva and to talk about where do we take refugee participation from here onward. I would like to start by acknowledging that we see a much more greater visibility of refugee delegation here in Geneva. I'm just coming from the orientation session, which happened in the morning with High Commissioner Filippo Grandi, and we had more than 200 refugee delegates in the room. So that was an incredible achievement when we actually compared this to 2019 Global Refugee Forum, where we only had 72 people in the room. So that itself is an achievement that we're actually celebrating here in Geneva today. I'm actually standing in a place called Impact Hub Geneva. This is called Refugee Space. It's a space for refugee leadership. It's a space where a lot of events that are showcasing the great work and the great impact that refugee-led organizations are doing across the world are going to have further visibility. It's a space that's been brought together by a coalition of network and donors and refugee-led organizations to ensure that we also bring further visibility to the voices of people from displacement from different parts of the world. So we're going to be here for the next 5 days as well, where we'll be hearing, we will be hearing from many different refugees around the kind of work that they're doing, and this is around education, around livelihood opportunities, around resettlement, around digital technology, inclusion when it comes to refugee engagement, and many more. So we are hoping those of you who are actually going, to join from Japan, either watching through live stream video, the GRF will also have an opportunity to contribute from that part of the world. It's quite exciting to hear that Jinte mentioned that there are going to be around 40 pledges above that are going to, be announced in bringing further support and commitment when it comes to refugee response sector. But probably something that me and my colleague can emphasize is that, let's ensure that refugee participation, meaningful refugee engagement becomes a key pillar of these pledges. Let's work together and find out how we can bring, further implementation when we talk about refugee participation. Anything that you probably want to add? Or
No, I think you've covered.
Yeah. So we will be here. We are missing those of you who are not here. Obviously, I know that there's been a lot of challenges, especially for our refugee delegates who wanted to be here in Geneva due to a lot of systemic issues such as visa, such as funding. So we're still looking at a lot of systemic barriers to refugee participation, but we are very quite thankful, to welcome Japan, to Jinte, to Satomi, and a lot of other colleagues from Japan who have supported also the participation of refugee delegates here in Geneva. So we already have seen few refugee delegates from Japan. We're looking forward to collaborate and partner in the next few days to ensure that, we talk to those solutions, we talk to policies that affects us, and ensure that, those policies are created in a way that it shapes and brings further improvement to the lives of refugees. So again, thank you very much for having us. It's a very busy period here in Geneva. It's raining, it's cold. There's so much happening, but we're going to be here. We're not going to be only talking about our issues. We're going to be talking also, we're going to ensure that your voices are also heard if you're a refugee in this virtual hub. We're here to also amplify on your voices. We count on your collaboration and partnership. And we're looking forward to actually also catch up as a post follow-up to GRF and tell you what we heard here and what was effective and what were the impacts and how do we share that learning from the Global Refugee Forum that's happening here too. When it's actually done. So thank you so much for having us and looking forward to catch up after the GRF. Thank you very much, Jinte.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was amazing opening remarks and yes, meaningful participation for a truly whole of society approach. Thank you. And then,
Thank you.
Yes, right. Thank you. And then next we'll be sharing pledges by Japanese stakeholders, and then it will be presented by Satomi Hiyama, Secretariat Forum for Refugees Japan, and Yutaro Murtani, the Head of Office for Peace Building, JICA. Please. Thank you.
Thank you, Jinte. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. My name is Satomi. I'm a Secretariat of the Forum for Refugees Japan. So as Jinte said at the opening of the session, so we spent 2 hours introducing pledges in the session before this session, and then we used only Japanese. So I'm going to quickly introduce an overview and some example of pledges from Japan. So the government of Japan is leading one of the multi-stakeholder pledge, and the multi-stakeholder pledge is a joint pledge with a large-scale reach, working towards ambitious common goals at the global level. And the Japanese government's multi-stakeholder pledge aims to accelerate and better leverage humanitarian development, peace and access approaches in forced displacement settings. And it's in a partnership with UNDP. And so far, I understand the governments and the stakeholders from Japan and other countries are joining this pledge. And as for the individual pledges from Japan, so according to the UNHCR dashboard, as of December 12th, so which is yesterday, there were approximately 40 pledges from Japanese actors. And then going back 4 years ago, at the first GRF in 2019, we had 3 pledges from the Japanese government and 1 from the civil society. So that actually the number is about 10 times higher this year, which is great. And then actors involved in the pledges have also diversified. So in 2019, only government, NGOs, and foundation were participating. But in 2023, more than 60 actors are involving, and then in 40 pledges. Although this includes overlap participations, but it's going to be 60 actors in total. And then one Japanese high school also pledges its contributions through their education program. And then these 40 pledges will be implemented in and outside of Japan and cover diverse areas of focus, such as education, job integration, digital admission, meaningful refugee participation, health and culture, livelihood, and access. Yes, the next slide. So let's look at some example. So in terms of the resettlement, the government of Japan pledges to strive to ensure steady and smooth acceptance of the refugees through the third country resettlement. And I think this will be their ongoing contribution from the 2019. And then next about the complementary pathways. And then I do believe that Japan was the first countries in Asia to launch the education pathways. So in addition to some government programs, the Pathway Japan pledges to admit and provide Japanese language, higher education, and job hunting assistance by 2029, in addition to the expanding the program and strengthening the networks. And then this will be implemented with the 60 universities in Japan. And there is also a new initiative from the language school. And then ISI Global will offer the free language courses to up to 160 refugees in Japan over the next 4 years. And then as for one of the cross-cutting issues, as Najiba said, the meaningful refugee participation, two refugee-led organization, Empathy and Japan Bridge, and the Welcome Japan jointly pledged to launch refugee consultation initiatives. And then they aim to initiate more inclusive decision-making in Japan. And then they will conduct over 40 consultations by 2027 in partnership with the various stakeholders in Japan, as well as with the diverse community among the refugee-led organization in the regional and the global. And as for the economic inclusion, there are several pledges in collaboration with the different sectors. For example, the WOG, non-profit organization, pledges to co-create approximately 100 opportunities, such as employment, internship, and training by 2025. And this was pledged in partnership with the Japan Association of Corporate Executives, Keizai Doryuka in Japanese. And then also Welcome Japan pledges to certify 20 of the companies and organizations in Japan using the Cultural Diversity Index, which is a workplace environment assessment tool developed by the civil society. And then this will be implemented by 2024. And then lastly, I would like to introduce digital inclusion. For example, Welcome Japan and the partner companies jointly pledged to secure IT project also outsourced by the companies. And then it will worth 10 billion yen, so around 69 million US dollars, I would believe so. And then they delegate the task to its trained refugee and stateless people. And also there was another example, which is led by Roboco, and then they pledges to train 300 refugees, create $3 million salaries for IT projects, and establish 100 refugee leaders. They will organize the hybrid event at the Impact Hub in Geneva from 4 p.m. Geneva time today. So you can actually join and know more about their initiatives. So there are actually many more branches, but because of the time limitation, we cannot interest every pledges today. And then also, I think that the new pledges coming up on the UNHCR dashboard very soon. So please check out and then keep you updated. And then as for the Japanese speakers, you can actually find them in Japanese on UNHCR Japan website. So yes, this is a quick overview from my side. So thank you, and back to you.
Right. Thank you. Thank you. That was amazing. About 40 pledges, 10 times more. That's what we were talking about. Japan, the conveyor country. And then we would like to hear from Jutaro as well about pledge from JICA and Japanese government on Nexus. So please. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And so thank you very much. I'm borrowing the camera of Satomi-san because mine is not working very well, and I am privileged to be presenting under this NAMRIN forum, but I can only represent JICA. And JICA is a development cooperation agency of the Japanese government. So our contribution to the refugee forum is how we can help or support the host governments, which are from the developing world, to work with to work better for the host communities as well as the refugees themselves. So many of our pledges are included in the Japanese government pledge that are contributing to the host governments outside of Japan. And only one exception of JICA's activities is a scholarship program for the Syrian refugees. So we have been providing the scholarship program for the Syrian refugees. So over 70, around 80 students are already studying in Japan, and some of them have already graduated and already working in the Japanese private companies. So we are very, very glad to be part of that endeavor as well. But let me explain a little bit more about our contributions to the host governments in the world. And the Japanese government this time is leading the multi-stakeholder pledge on the promoting the Humanitarian Development Peace Nexus, or HDP Nexus pledge. That will encouraging the actors, stakeholders across humanitarian development peace spectrum to work together towards supporting the host governments, host communities, and refugees. So we are promoting how we can make a better framework so that all these different actors can contribute from leveraging their own strengths and maximizing the synergies and complementary to each other, so that it will benefit the host communities and the refugees. And it all includes different types of engagements, starting from the self-reliance of the refugees, vocational training, private sector mobilization, agriculture, food security, education, climate change and the environment. And we also would like to support the gender mainstreaming in our efforts to support refugee response. We also wish to support the host communities and host governments to strengthen their mental health, psychosocial support. And we also try to enhance our engagement in the peace building activities so that we can address the root causes of the host displacement. And we will be organizing the high-level event on promoting the HDP Nexus on Thursday morning Geneva time, 11 a.m. I believe it will be live streamed from the website of the Global Refugee Forum, where we will be bringing in not only the Japanese stakeholders, but also the refugee representative, host country governments, international organizations or regional organizations, the development banks, IMF, so that we will be bringing together all these different stakeholders so that we can work together. And this 40 pledges from Japan symbolizes this promotion of HDP Nexus, I believe, because the HDP Nexus is something that we would be mobilizing different stakeholders, contributing from their own ways and trying to find a synergies across different actors. And then so that we will be seeing the societies where host communities and refugees can live together and live together with dignity and prosperity. So we are hoping that we will be having more stakeholders, actors coming in to work together with us, and JICA would be happy to serve as a facilitator for those who are interested in working together for the host countries or host community and refugees. So tomorrow we will be celebrating the Global Refugee Forum version 2, but I think this will be another starting point for the 4 years to come, and we are hoping to see more and more partnership and the joint activities together in the future. So thank you very much, and we are very much looking forward to the forum and discussions beyond the forum. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Yutaro and Satomi. And then we would like to have questions from participants. So using the Zoom Q&A function, if you have any question, please post on the Zoom Q&A. We have so many pledges, so there could be many questions. Maybe not now, I guess. Right. Okay. Clock's ticking too, so we can go to the next part. But like, it's really about collective impact as a whole of society approach for diverse complementary pathways, and then we would like to see, from Japan and beyond Japan, through Asia, for the refugee inclusion. And for that, we would like to hear from other East Asian countries as well, pledges and good practices from East Asia. So we'll be handing to Jeannie Kim, Attorney at Law Bureau, Association for Public Interest Law, Chair East Asia Working Group, Apron, and also Lynette Nam, Executive Director, Justice Center, Hong Kong, and also Lei Yen Lon, Refugee Specialist, Taiwan Association for Human Rights. So from Jeannie Kim, yes, 5 minutes for each. Is Jeannie here? Okay, we got her. Got you.
Hello. Yeah, can you hear
Hello.
me all right?
Yep, clear.
Yep. Great. Okay. Hello from Seoul, Korea, which is like 8:30 p.m. here. So it's good afternoon, good evening for those who are in East Asia. And as a chair of East Asian Working Group of Apron, I would like to firstly present our recommendation of pledges that we made in East Asian Working Group. And also I'd like to present a little bit about good practices of South Korea. So I don't have much time, but I'll try to be fast. There have been a couple of recommended list of pledges that made by Apron East Asian Working Group, which consists of South Korea, Japan, Taiwan, and Hong Kong. So firstly, we would like to ask the governments of each country to enact the legislation that aligns with the Refugee Convention. And also, we would like to recommend the governments to align the refugee recognition rate with the global average, because East Asia is one of the regions with very, very low refugee recognition rate. And also, we would like to ask the government to ensure that living standard of refugees, including not just recognized refugees, but also protected persons and complementary status holders, who are equivalent to those of nationals of each country, as outlined in the Refugee Convention. And also, we would like to recommend the government to stop arbitrary detention of asylum seekers and refugees, because in practices of each country, there have been quite a few cases of the arbitrary detention of asylum seekers and refugees. And we also wanted to ask the government to make pledges on statelessness issue as well, so that the government can ratify both the 1954 convention and also 1961 convention on the reduction of statelessness. And also we wanted to ask the government to ensure that every child can be registered, the birth of every child can be registered, so that the universal birth registration system are established in each country. And lastly, but not least, we wanted to ask the government to implement a locally contextualized and high-quality resettlement program for individuals in need of international protection, or those who are in vulnerable situations. So these are a number of recommended lists of pledges that made by APRN East Asian Working Group. We are still in the stage of finalizing it. So after we finalize it, we would like to distribute this statement and wanted to use for advocacy purpose. And I also wanted to talk a little bit about South Korea as well. As an NGO activist, I always try to focus on just practices, not good practices. But because the topic is good practices, I would like to try my best to find the good points of South Korea. Well, South Korea is one of the few East Asian countries with a separate refugee act, which has been like published and advertised by Korean government many times. But yeah, we do have a separate refugee act that implementing the refugee convention. So the government has tried its best to improve the refugee status determination procedure, but I have to say it's not very successful with the very low recognition rate of refugees in Korea, which was like 1% in 2021 and 2% in 2022. So we still need to focus on the independence and professionalism of RSD procedure, and those who are working in the RSD procedure needs to be adequately trained and competent and adhere to principles of human rights. But yeah, we do have the Refugee Act, which is a very good source when we are trying to file a lawsuit and make some kind of policies based on the Refugee Act. And another good practice in South Korea is that about the immigration detention, which in practice it's not the best, but recently we had this constitutional court decision last year in March, this year in March, and the Constitutional Court of South Korea said that we need to amend the Immigration Act by 2025, and the court held that the current Immigration Act of South Korea is unconstitutional because it doesn't have the upper limit of immigration detention period, and also it doesn't have any judicial review procedure or independent review procedure made by those who are not working on these administrative issues. So we do have a very good constitutional court decision. So we need to focus on the amendment of Immigration Act and also the development of policies in the future. And we would like to talk, I also would like to talk about the complementary status, which is not exist in South Korea at the moment, but we do have humanitarian status, which is not the recognized refugees, but who can stay in South Korea for a while, but they only have the right to work, and their status is very unstable, and there's a lack of social security, especially limited access to health insurance. So we need to work on it as well. So yeah, there are a few practices that South Korea, and yeah, I would like to wrap up because there is this time limit showing up. And yeah, I'd like to have more sessions on if there are some questions. Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, I'm done. Jinte, I think you're muted.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much, Jeannie. Personally, as a Korean born in Japan, I would like to see the bridge for collaboration between Japan and Korea. I understand East Asia, we have situations, but we can go for, collaboration for refugee inclusion, for the next 4 years. from this GRF 2023. And then let me welcome Lynette as well from Hong Kong, and we would like to hear your illustration, pledges, and good practice. Yes, thank you.
Great, thank you for the welcome, and thank you for this forum to share. I think Ginny also set up this conversation very nicely. Just a word of warning, I am a lawyer by training. Legal status, but I will look beyond that to share some of the good practices we observe as well beyond the legal system there, and also some of the pledges that have come out this time around. So just so that people have some kind of background as to the situation in Hong Kong, as at the end of October this year, we have over 14,000 people in Hong Kong who are seeking asylum and at various stages of legal proceedings. The claimants that we see, their profiles span globe across the world really, but we see many people from South and Southeast Asia as well as Middle East and Africa that find their way into Hong Kong. In March 2024, so come next year, Hong Kong's legal status determination, the Unified Screening Mechanism or USM, will be 10 years old. So prior to that, UNHCR handled the status determination. So we're talking about a system that is now coming out of its early stages and gaining a lot more experience and some grounding as a state-led status determination mechanism. So next year we will be acknowledging and recognizing that mark. But claimants in Hong Kong under this one mechanism have their claims determined under persecution as defined under the Refugee Convention. Hong Kong being a territory where the convention doesn't actually directly apply, but that determination is made. Claims are also considered under the Convention Against Torture, so whether someone will be returned to a place where they might be tortured. And also people's claims are also considered under the Hong Kong Bill of Rights, which actually domesticates the ICCPR. So it is a fairly comprehensive mechanism that I think our neighbours can observe as well, because it gives a lot of clarity as to the grounds that apply within one system. All claimants are provided with publicly funded legal representation first instance when coming before the Immigration Department, and there are pathways for appeal and judicial review if claims are refused. But as Jeannie mentioned, sharing good practices, I think there's also challenges that need to be mentioned along the way. And similar to our neighbours, once again, Hong Kong, I think, also bears a very, very low recognition rate. So at first instance, when we talk about decision making, I think the current statistic is 0.4% of claims are recognised. At the appeal process, that number jumps up slightly, and you see over 1% recognised, but extremely low. And we understand that even though there is legal representation at first instance, legal advice is not available at very critical stages, so including when someone first arrives, the early immigration interviews, and when they have to first apply to be considered. And also many of the people making the decisions and the lawyers who are representing claimants at first instance, many of them aren't experienced in asylum law. So there is a gap in training and technical assistance that needs to progress and needs to be filled as well. So moving away from the legal systems and legal status, just looking more broadly at social and economic well-being, what Hong Kong does well is that people who seek asylum in Hong Kong, everyone is provided with publicly funded humanitarian assistance. So there is a baseline of support when people are seeking asylum there. However, the cost of living in Hong Kong is extremely high. I think it's in one of the top 5 this year as assessed. And the amounts that are given to people seeking asylum puts them below the poverty line. So it's extremely tough going. And throughout the asylum proceedings, people cannot work. There's no ability to access livelihoods or the job market in Hong Kong. If substantiated, and once again, going to something that Hong Kong has progressed and is doing well, people may apply for discretionary permission to work. But then this is a very limited right. And this is a slow progress in the right to work, given that even when you are granted status, you don't have any access to residency or work rights. Children have access to education up to the end of secondary school, but face significant barriers, both financial and structural, when trying to access higher education and universities as well. So I think there is a sense of what are we doing and hopelessness when you work with children in Hong Kong seeking asylum as well. And when we talk about detention, I think what Hong Kong does well is that the majority of claimants are not detained throughout the asylum proceedings, and people are given reconnaissance and are asked to report regularly. But however, recent amendments to immigration ordinance has really laid the groundwork of expanded use of detention, and many people are detained possibly at the early stages of the process and at after the appeal process as well. So there is that risk of detention, and once people are detained, there is very little access to legal help and support. So maybe some of the good practice coming from civil society. In the last 2 years, civil society in Hong Kong have come together every year in June to mark Refugee Week, which is a global movement that we have decided that in Hong Kong we need to replicate. So that has seen a lot of public awareness raising, as well as ability to celebrate the diversity that comes with welcoming refugees as well, and also limited time, but there are increasing amount of projects that really promote refugee agency, leadership, and inclusion, especially through food programs that are shared with the wider public, as well as art projects that extend beyond the refugee community as well. And just to quickly mention, this year Hong Kong has 10 pledges in as of yesterday, and that also represents an increase, not as impressive as Japan, but at least doubling the last round of pledges coming from Japan. Most of them are from civil society, so including Justice Centre Hong Kong, but also some of our friends at Branches of Hope, Dignity Institute and Run, who focus on both law as well as building resilience and resettlement pathways. We also saw some diversification of the pledges as well, with SEA Charitable Foundation committing to offering scholarships and bursaries for students, as well as COHK, which is a university in Hong Kong, pledging to increase student awareness of healthcare issues of the refugees and asylum seekers in Hong Kong, so community in Hong Kong. So we are also seeing an increase in diversification there. So maybe I will stop here and pass it now to the next speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynette. Wow, thank you. Yes, it's really, I think sharing and hearing is caring. And then we have different legal structures, different situation, but new practices are coming out, and then you can, I think, share good practices for a better future for each other. Thank you very much. Next is Lai Yannon from Taiwan Association for Human Rights. She's a refugee specialist, and then I believe she has some slides to present. So, oh yes, hi.
Yeah, hi, sir. Good evening and good afternoon, everyone. Sir, can you hear me well? Okay.
Yes.
Is it okay? Okay. So, because of the time limits, I just go directly into the topic. And I'm not sure if people here are familiar with the refugee situation in Taiwan. So I will start with quickly go through some basic facts about Taiwan. So firstly, Taiwan is not a state party of 1951 Refugee Convention or 1967 protocols. And we don't have a UNHCR office, and we are not a UN member state, and we don't have a domestic refugee act or legal asylum seeking mechanism yet. We only have the de facto programs which actually exist but without written under our law, or we only assist asylum cases case by case basis. And although there are several attempts to enact the Refugee Act in Taiwan, but they are all failed by now, and there is no official statistic on refugee in Taiwan. But the other fact is we have 5 UN Human Rights Convention become our domestic law now. So although Taiwan is not the UN member state, but we still find a way to build up our treaty review systems, and NGO will submit our shadow reports, and we will invite some international human rights experts here to review like our system and our structure. Next page, please. So, and currently we have two de facto programs for asylum seekers, and the first one is for asylum seekers except people from Hong Kong, Macau, China, and Xinjiang. And this program is still very new. Like these applications only began in June of this year, and all the cases are currently still under the review stage. And as of now, no one has obtained the legal status yet through this project. And additionally, there are a lot of fundamental problems in the RSD procedure for this project. For instance, there is a lack of qualified interpreters, and issues such as the absence of the interim status during the application process remain like unaddressed. Next, please. So the other program is for Hong Kong protesters. However, I believe like the nature of this project cannot be termed as a refugee seeking initiative. I think it merely provides a slight concession to Hong Kong protesters under the general immigration and naturalization conditions. They still must like maintain their status to continued employment or education. And the significant issues with like both these projects that I mentioned is the lack of explicitly stated implementing laws and responsible authorities. And the absence means that if this project were to be closed tomorrow, and that the public will have no like recourse, they couldn't appeal and they couldn't argue with the government. And so next please. So like I mentioned, we have several problems, but since the topic is the good practice, I will share some of our limited good practice. So unlike some countries, there are still like indefinite detention without due process. The two related constitutional interpretations in Taiwan have like changed the immigration detention situation in Taiwan. And so in response to these two constitutional interpretations, an amendment to our Article 38 of the Immigration Act was made to restrict the maximum duration of temporary detention to 15 days. And the second extension is restricted to the maximum of 45 days, and the last extension is to 40 days. So the total maximum duration of the detention is limited to 100 days. So any extension of the detention period must undergo the court review. So if an individual has been detained for 100 days, the immigration agency still couldn't deport this person. Like the immigration agency will ask some non-profit organization or charity groups to act as a guarantor for these individuals and allowing them to leave detention centers and use alternative ways of detention. And so how the other good practice is like the alternatives to detention work in Taiwan. And unlike many other countries with numerous restrictions and constraints of the alternatives, such as the requirement to wear electronic tags following the alternatives, Taiwan's systems allows individuals to be released as long as they find a Taiwanese guarantor and pay the deposit. So if their guarantor is an organization who has been closely worked with immigration issues like us, they don't even have to pay the deposit. So people preparing to enter the project, people preparing to enter the two projects that I mentioned can also be exempt from fines. And the only requirement is to report to the immigration service centers once every 15 to 60 days. Next, please. So, and these are like some of the pledges that our organization made for this year to oversee our government's establishment of the legal framework and the day mechanism. And due to the time limits, may I just skip these pages? And next slide. Next slide. So, and finally, I would like to like emphasize that like because the importance of the Global Refugee Forum as a crucial platform that brings together like different stakeholders from different regions, I want to shed light on significant challenges faced by CSOs in Taiwan working on refugee issues, because there is a significant lack of robust external oversight and resources in Taiwan's refugee protection situation. And this has resulted in many asylum seekers we assist being trapped in the dilemma of being unable to leave Taiwan because with their expired travel documents, and also we are unable to obtain they are unable to obtain legal status in Taiwan. Therefore, also I would like to take this opportunity to call for more transnational collaboration with us, and I hope to foster more unofficial external connections to help those asylum seekers in Taiwan for maybe resettlement or more resources for them. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Mai.
Thank you.
Right. It's really rare to hear voices from East Asia country, I think, because I don't know. Thank you, all three of you, because I went to Bangkok this September for the Apron Strategic Gathering and NGO consultation for UNHCR, and then I feel like I'm the one who is learning more than anyone else about East Asia situation. And then we have different legal structure situation limitation, but there's always good practices coming out, and then yes, it's really lovely to hear all voices. And then I think we're getting Q&A. Oh, okay, great. Then let's go for a question. When I was working in Australia, climate justice activists also demanded the rights of immigrant refugees, but in Japan, the sectionalism is often seen. It was not often to see such solidarity in my experience. I'm thinking how we can merge between refugee movement and other racial justice movements more and more. In Hong Kong or Taiwan, is there any practice? For example, in Taiwan, is there any approach to show the solidarity between the history of the great exodus from China and refugees movement, or is there any approach to show the solidarity between the fair trade movement or pride movement and refugee movement? I assume that's a question for Hong Kong and Taiwan.
I can
Sure.
offer some kind of projects in Hong Kong. I think that answers this question. Am I heard? Yeah, sure.
Yep.
So this is a really great question, and I think it is often the case that people don't draw together all the intersecting issues that overlap with refugees and displacement. And a big part of this is also understanding our history and where we come from. Certainly, I think Hong Kong has a very long history of displacement. And people experiencing various issues across time that have found themselves in Hong Kong. So Hong Kong really is a city of migrants. So one project that actually Justice Centre engaged in a few years back was called #SharedPast, and it was a collection of photos that were done with people who are current refugees or people with a direct refugee past who lives in Hong Kong. So it's quite a broad range of people. You have people currently seeking asylum, also people who have left China at various stages of upheaval across the last century. You have people who migrated to Hong Kong as an expat, but actually in their direct line, a generation ago were refugees, and they worked with a photographer that was from the migrant community herself, and documented their photos in a way that they chose with objects that represented what was valuable to them, and then also shared some of the story. And that exhibit traveled across different spaces within Hong Kong. And I think that really brings that connection that refugee isn't just a present issue. A lot of people have this history, have this past, and we need to acknowledge it. And also the reasons of displacement is cross-cutting, right? It's not just the immediate conflicts that we see on TV. People leave for a whole range of reasons, and letting people tell their own stories and letting people try to think of their own history, or giving a prompt to think of their own history, then gives them that engagement with the intersectionalism of the issue. So I hope that somewhat addressed the question, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. What about Lai?
I think this topic is, I think it's a bit controversial because I think that the general society in Taiwan doesn't consider the great exodus from China as refugee, and because they kind of form an authoritarian regime in Taiwan, and so they are kind of more privileged people, and so we don't have a lot of like solidarity approach with between the history of this, but I think there are some research have done about this to compare the trauma that those exodus face in the past, and comparing to the refugee, like nowadays, like how they can like relate it to those memories. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Lai. And then what about Jeannie? We're actually 7 minutes past already, but like I really value this open dialogue opportunity. And then is there any comment from Jeannie, maybe between like Korea and Japan, or I don't know, what's like your focus through this GRF 2023? Any comment is really welcomed.
Well, in terms of solidarity, South Korea shows a very strong network for refugee rights. We have Korea Refugee Rights Network with tens of NGOs, civil society working together. And in 2018, there were these Yemeni refugees who came to Jeju Island. Well, 500 Yemeni refugees came to Jeju Island, which shows public outrage, saying that there are too many refugees coming to South Korea. They are all fake refugees and stuff. And that moment was actually a good opportunity for civil society in South Korea, for not just for refugees, but for vulnerable people to work together, get together to fight against the hatred and discrimination. So yeah, that was I want to share that experience. And also we have been working quite closely with Japanese civil society as well, because we have like similar situation, good or I mean bad and worse, or worse and worst situation. And Japan and South Korea, we share similar laws and policies and very low refugee recognition rate. And Korean government is like, they don't really listen to us when we say, oh, Europe does this, but when we say, oh, Japan does this, and they're like, oh, we should be better than Japan. And also I think Japan has a similar situation. So we have been working quite closely with Japanese NGOs as well, and also this APRON East Asian Working Group. We have been working quite closely with Taiwanese NGOs, and they gave us a very good insight when we did constitutional court case about immigration detention, and also Hong Kong as well. So yeah, I think we show quite good solidarity within South Korea and also in East Asia.
Thank you. That was amazing. Thank you. Yes, we can always look at each other and look for each other, you know. Yes. Thank you, everyone from East Asia. And then, yes, 9 minutes past. Next agenda, we would like to welcome more voices. And then the next will be about expectations for East Asia, not from. And then firstly, we would like to welcome Katja Aszana.
Good evening. Good morning. Well, afternoon, evening.
Hi.
Hi.
Wait a minute. Yes, I would like to get the spotlight on you. And then she is a policy officer at UNHCR Regional Bureau for Asia and the Pacific. And yes, please, Katja.
No, thank you so much. So good afternoon and evening, depending on whether you are in Geneva or Tokyo or elsewhere in the world. I'm very happy to join you from Bangkok, from the regional office for the Asia Pacific of UNHCR. I've been involved in the Global Refugee Forum since April as the coordinator for this region. I have to say, first of all, that it's really a pleasure to see this event coming to fruition and to see really so many partners taking part in it. I do hope that you will find these next days to be informative, useful, fruitful, and interesting to your own work, really on forced displacement, sharing all the good practices, thoughts, and ideas on how to move forward towards better protection and solutions for the 114 million displaced and stateless people in the world. The GRF is really an extraordinary event. It's an event of hope. It's an event of solidarity. And this year it gathers somewhat 3,500 participants. Many of you are part of it, and many more of us follow these proceedings from home, wherever it may be in the world. Before the official program has even begun, we have already seen some 50 GRF pledges registered from this region, with the promise of more to come. From Japan, we welcome the commitment and leadership on action along the humanitarian development peace nexus for sustainable resilience and solutions, and really speaking also to the root causes of displacement. We also commend the sustained commitment of Japan to offer solutions to vulnerable refugees through resettlement. Japan is not the only one. We have also seen both the Korean and Japanese civil societies, private sector actors, as well as in Japan, in China, to have really raised to the challenge. We have recorded pledges from a variety of actors on financial, technical, or expert support, facilitation to establish legislative frameworks to either protect refugees or victims of human trafficking, for instance, support to rebuild resilience, as well as nurture self-reliance through, for instance, sports and education. And at the same time, also really the humanitarian assistance to refugee situations worldwide, as well as in the region. So what are the expectations? Going forward, during the next 4 years, the implementation of these pledges will not only provide for protection and solutions, act on root causes, and ease the burden on host countries, but also hopefully establish the evidence base for innovative ways of doing and providing solutions. So beyond wishing to see common, joint, transformative commitments, which we will probably have also during the GRF, above all, we wish to see this collaboration and spirit of solidarity of all of us, a really wide range of actors who all bring value and different expertise on the table to carry through for these next 4 years. Because we cannot overemphasize the importance of whole of society responses as really leading to effective action and these transformations that we all seek in addressing the global refugee crisis. So I really want to thank all of you so much for engaging, for sharing your knowledge, discussing the problems that we face, as well as for many of you to actually have made the trip to Switzerland to participate in the proceedings in person. And Also, welcome Japan for bringing these proceedings back to us who are not there in person. So we are really looking very much forward to the discussions later this week, as well as really working together in the next 4 years. So thank you.
We had conversation back in Bangkok. We have to open up this Global Refugee Forum opportunity for everyone. And then, yes, I would love to see the whole of Asian collaboration for new refugee inclusion. So thank you again, Katja. And next, let's move on to Celia Finch, Asia Pacific Regional Manager from International Detention Coalition. Please, Celia.
Hi, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for the interesting speakers beforehand. It's so really informative and amazing to hear about the massive achievements with all of the increasing pledges. And I hope to see more over the next week and hear more feedback. So just as a little way of introduction, I'm Celia Finch, the International Detention Coalition Asia Pacific Regional Manager, but also the chair of the Immigration Detention Working Group of APRIN. And so IDC is a global network of organizations and experts that work on advocating to end immigration detention and promote rights-based alternatives to detention. We have a presence in most regions around the world, but I work really closely with members in the Asia Pacific region, including East Asia. So ending immigration detention and promoting and expanding rights-based alternative to detention keeps coming up as a major theme and priority in East Asia to address. There's some challenges, of course, but there's also many opportunities and developments that have happened. So I thought I could give a bit of a brief background to what ATD and ending immigration detention even is in the broader international and national legal frameworks, and then talk a little bit about the multi-stakeholder ATD pledge that's being presented this week. So detention is any deprivation of liberty in a closed place where people cannot leave, either not reasonably or they're not permitted to. Immigration detention is status detention. It's based on migration status and therefore should not be punitive, despite some of the public rhetoric. So it is an administrative form of detention. All humans have the right to freedom of movement and liberty, and this is protected in many international conventions and frameworks. These apply to everybody. With detention, though, if it is going to be used, there are necessary safeguards. So it must be an exception to the rule, a measure of last resort, in pursuit of a legitimate aim, necessary, reasonable, and proportionate, and in the circumstances of individual cases. It also must be subject to regular independent review. So alternatives to detention are non-custodial community-based measures that provide an alternative to this and are generally considered better because they are more humane and costless. Alternatives are important for all, although in advocacy we've prioritised those that are most vulnerable, including children and families. We recognise that detention can never be in a child's best interest. Alternatives can include like release into the community, support in case management, providing registration support, being subject to being released subject to conditions like being phoning in or having to report in person. And all of these different options all have their own human rights implications and need to be considered on a bit of a sliding scale and assessed on an individual case-by-case basis. So ending immigration detention does not mean abandoning the need for border control. It means taking detention as the exception rather than the rule and avoiding unnecessary prolonged detention and confinement. So the emphasis is on respecting the dignity and rights of people who migrate. So we've been working with UNICEF and UNHCR to progress the multi-stakeholder pledge on developing alternatives to immigration detention and ending immigration detention of asylum-seeking refugees, stateless, and migrant children and their families. The pledge aims to encourage states and non-government actors to support the development of non-custodial and community-based alternatives to detention, particularly for children, in line with the commitments in the Global Compact on Refugees. This is an area of commonality between the Global Compact on Migration and the GCR, And so states are asked to consider the similar pledges that they would have made under the GCM Objective 13, which also calls for detention to be used as a measure of last resort. So pledges for countries and states and civil society that are looking to pledge under the multi-stakeholder pledge can be drawn from any 17 of the different objectives that are outlined, although we encourage all civil society and government to build on the current work that they're doing. It's not about perfection, I guess. It's about progress and making sure that we're working towards this goal. So we're pledging our vision that we will continue to work as a whole of society approach to developing non-custodial and community-based alternatives to detention. And we're doing that all throughout in many different regions, in MENA, in Asia Pacific, Africa, America, and Europe, Americas, through like coordinating civil society networks, providing technical assistance, some regional peer learning. And with East Asia, we've been working very closely with partners from the legal community, civil society, and others, because there's been keen interest in trialling and expanding rights-based alternatives to immigration detention, building on the momentum of existing programs, the judicial decisions, and parliamentary processes. And I think we've heard a lot about those already. So far, Thailand's the only government in the Asia Pacific region to publicly commit to pledging, but we know that there will be certainly member states from Europe and the Americas that will also pledge under this. And we're hoping to see in the near future if other states will also pledge. So thank you, and I just went over time.
Thank you, Celia, for sharing this important pledge for humans' dignity and next generation's future. We need to work together on this. Thank you so much. And next is Khadija Begum, Rohingya refugee consultant. Let's welcome Khadija, please.
Okay, hello everyone. Is it okay to speak?
Yep, I think we can all hear you.
Okay, great.
Voila.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Khadija. I'm joining you from Geneva today. I'd like to thank you all watching us from all over the world. Yes, this is my first time in Geneva, and I can't get over the jet lag yet. I'm so tired and so
Yeah, or
well, as we conclude the introduction of pledges from our respected nations, I would like to share some thoughts and also expectations from the critical role our countries can play in shaping a future that embraces refugees like myself as an integral members of society. I am a Rohingya woman who found refuge in and a new beginning in Japan. So my journey from refugee to an educated professional here is a testament to what is possible when a society embrace and open their arms to those who are in need. So yeah, in Japan, with the help of many government and non-government organizations like Welcome Japan, I have able to contribute back to my community. Currently, I am involved with education support program, where we are providing education assistance to more than 60 Rohingya students in Japan, and also Rohingya, my fellow Rohingya refugee women and children in Japan. Additionally, in collaboration with Team Jinte, we have initiated the very first digital skill training program for 5 Muslim women with refugee background. This is the very first digital skill training program for refugee women through technology and skill development, helping them to integrate more effectively into the society. So now, my expectations from the East Asian nations, the pledges we have heard from you are not just commitment, They are the first step toward inclusive communities where a refugee is not an outsider, but they are a contributing member, bringing diverse experience and perspective. So, however, this vision is not a reality. We have heard many problems yet here. In places like Bangladesh and Malaysia, I have seen countless Rohingya refugees like myself. They are living in a state that starkly contrasts the opportunities I have found in Japan. They face overcrowded camps, limited healthcare, and more critically, restricted access to education. So as nations, particularly those in East Asia, we have a duty to transform our pledges into tangible actions, providing not just shelter, but educational opportunities and avenue for active involvement. Our goal should be the full integration of refugees, allowing them to attend school, work, and contribute positively. This approaches aids not only refugees, but also the host country. It enriches our societies culturally and economically. Moreover, we must recognize that resettlement in third countries is not the sole solution to the refugee crisis. So we should aspire to a world where individuals can live peacefully in their native countries. This broader vision of peace and stability is crucial for all displaced population, not just the Rohingya. We must work toward a future where everyone has the right to live peacefully in their homeland. So in conclusion, I urge all of us carry the spirit of our commitments beyond this symposium. Our actions today can shape a better future for refugees, especially for the youth. So let's strive to build inclusive societies where diversity is celebrated and everyone has the opportunity to live with dignity and contribute to our collective well-being. Thank you for all for your attention and dedication to the inclusivity and empowerment as we foster hope and unity. Let us also extend our prayers for lasting peace in Palestine. I must say, the situation in Gaza is not good, and hoping for an end to the long shedding conflict. Thank you all.
Thank you, Khadija, so much. We're working together to teach Rohingya moms in Japan on digital skill inclusion. And then I would love to say, as personally, as the third generation of North Korean born in Japan, refugees are no burden to share. It's talents, it's assets for society. And then we're seeing that happen. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes, and last but not least, we would like to welcome Anas and Suzanne, members of Japan Bridge and Empathy.
Yeah, thank you so much, Kim-san. So I'm here joined with Suzanne from Geneva. So we would like to talk to you today about many things. First of all, I would like to talk a little bit about our background. So I came to Japan 4 years ago through the GISR program organized by JICA, which is one of the only ways that are in Japan for refugees to find a study opportunity and also prepare them to join the working industry. So as a member of Empathy and Japan Bridge, I will talk a little bit about Empathy. So Empathy is a very special group that joins people who with refugee backgrounds and Japanese people in Japan who are students. So we join forces together to create a safe space for people with refugee backgrounds to inquire and have very smooth interactions without any type of prejudice. So that's it for me. I will let Suzanne introduce herself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Susan, student at Waseda University and, member of Empathy and also Japan Bridge. So I also came through one of the unique educational program, which is Pathways Japan. It's based on refugee skills, giving access to refugee to study the Japanese language. There are a lot of unique programs around the world Japan have a few of those, and I think that the world can learn from each other and also provide a better impact and response to the issues. Japan Bridge, let's talk about it. It's an organization made by Syrian students mostly who live in Japan. They advocate for the voices of refugees, of course, and we've been created after the unfortunate earthquake that hit Syria and Turkey earlier this year. And we do plan to find better solution. Being us ourselves with refugee background, we understand our community and we try to give voices for those who does not have voices. One of the platforms, our embassy, it was the first platform who gave voices to give us the power to have voices, and the other platform is Japan Bridge. And also my colleague Anas will speak a little bit more about access and refugee empowerment.
Okay, thank you so much, Susan. So we have a lot of high hopes actually for Japan beyond this GRF. And for me, I would like to talk a little bit about the employment opportunities that Japan can deliver. So as I mentioned earlier, that I came through this special program called GSR. And to be honest, it was not a very smooth path to begin at the beginning. However, I need to be very fair and say that the program has improved dramatically over the past 6 years. And every year has been making huge improvements. Although at the beginning it was lacking in many aspects, but right now it's becoming a very smooth process for Syrian refugees to come to Japan, study Japanese intensively for 1 year, and then they go for their master's studies. And doing their master's studies, they get integrated into finding how to know the keys of finding a job in Japan during their studies. So by the time they have graduated, most of them, they have the job that they want to have in Japan. So it's a complete process, although it may be criticized in many ways, but I think it's an experience for all of us to learn how we can improve that, how we can find maybe some relevance in that and do something ourselves to make refugees more included, especially in the employment area. Because without employment, a refugee is gonna need attention most of the time. So we need to make a sustainable solution and make refugees independent by providing these employment solutions. I think Suzanne is going to go a little bit more about education.
So speaking about learning empowerment and giving skills, education is very important. It's part of Sustainable Development Goals, goal number 4, of course. And with those special skills, empowering refugees to have access to employment, as my colleague Anas mentioned, it's very essential. And education have given me a lot of chances. Being a PhD student now, I have access to conferences. I can speak more and share experience based on academic level. So my voice can reach not only academic, but also companies and other private sectors and many active in those society. Well, to conclude, I believe that this is a chance to learn for now and for the future. And I look forward everyone participation and comments. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. You know, I love this meaningful participation. People with refugee background is saying that there was a dramatic improvement in Japanese government program. And then he said, we can learn and improve together. I think that's really important. And then, yes, Khadija, Suzanne, and Anas are the 3 refugee delegates from Japan. And then at the last ATCR, I was with refugee person, but like only 1 refugee from Japan. It was the first time to have refugee actually at ATCR. So that was great start. But like now we have 3, and then I hope we can have more in the future. But like, yes. And is there any question or is there any comment? What do you feel like to be in Geneva for Global Refugee Forum, Khadija, as a refugee from Japan?
Well, I already told you that I'm so happy. I'm feeling so deeply honored, and I feel like it's meaningful participation of refugee participation myself and deliver my voice directly to you here. Yeah, thank you again.
Thank you. That's nice. All right, great. Thank you, Anas and Suzanne too. Is there any comment from you as well?
I just want to also add to what Khadija said, is that I'm really glad that we feel here represented. Like, I come here, it's my first time going to Geneva, of course. But beyond that, I come here and I see a lot of people who are interested, not only interested, but they actually have some proven track of supporting refugees, and they have the biggest intent to do that. And I am also seeing a lot of people of refugee backgrounds in the venues. And I think this is where it's really important for me, that the decision is included with the refugees. It's not a decision that is made by people that are in power only, but actually refugees are now in power, and they are included in the process. And I think for me, this is a huge improvement compared to previous years. Suzanne, do you have anything to say?
Yes, I would like to follow up on those comments, saying nothing about us without us. So having us here, for me, it's not something about feeling happy or sad. That's a very huge privilege. I feel a lot of responsibility that I hold to share the voices of those in the same situation as myself. It's a very important role. And having access to many actors sharing the experience of Japan and learning from other countries is something very unique. I'm very happy to be here, and I feel privileged that I met with a few people, not only from UNSCR, but from other sectors that I have met before in many conferences. So I believe that I've been granted this access because of the people who support me in Japan, and I'm very grateful for this support. Your support is very important. Please keep the support, and we also would like to support you and create more approachable pathways for everyone, not for only like refugees, everyone who need pathways. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne. Let's do it together. I saw Celia's face as well, showed in the screen. Yes, I basically don't want to end this event, all right? So can we have the comment from Celia too? Thank you.
Thanks. I don't think I can follow that up. I think you summed it up extremely well, Susanna. I just hope that you know, the work still continues after Geneva this week, and that we can keep following up and keep the pressure on, because we might get some momentum from some of the things that are said and done this week. So that's all. I'll leave it there.
Okay, thank you, Celia. Thank you, Tira. All right. Then, yep. The time has come, and yes, it will be the last. Least, let's give it to the spotlight. It's fixed. All right. So then let's hear the closing remarks from you, please.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for the privilege of the closing remarks. I'm now here wearing my hat as the Deputy Chair of APRIN, the Asia Pacific Refugee Rights Network, and I would like to extend our thanks, and I'm sure everyone online would like to extend their thanks also to Welcome Japan and for Refugees Japan for organizing this and providing this platform and bringing the forum also back to people in East Asia. I'm sure you can all agree today's sharing has been extremely informative and productive, and it's given at least definitely myself a lot of thoughts in terms of how we can learn from each other, how we can collaborate. We are similar in many ways, and we are friends and neighbors, and I think there is in fact a lot we can do together. And APRIN, I think one of our main strategies and what we believe in strongly is that through intentional connections, by building on connections, we can move beyond solidarity, beyond words to action. And this is what this forum is about. This is what today has been about. So let me invite everyone now together. Let's do more to ensure that everyone who is on the move, who is seeking a life that is lived in dignity and safety, is met with fairness and with compassion, and that there are accessible pathways across East Asia, across the world, to lasting solutions where people can find integration and inclusion in the societies that they move to, and as you have said, also back in their home countries as well, where peace can be found. So that's all I have to say, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Lynette. So that was Welcome Japan Symposium 2023. I feel like that was Welcome Asia Symposium, I would say. And then, you know, this is the end of event, but it's just the beginning of the next 4 years. We stand together, and then we will collaborate for better future. So thank you again for this joining this symposium. Thank you.